business results. They're the co-authors of 2 books, The Beauty of Conflict and The Beauty of Conflict for Couples. They also have a podcast with the same name, The Beauty of Conflict. They have given presentations on conflict resolution, communication, teamwork, stress, and inclusion at Fortune 100 companies like Johnson & Johnson, Microsoft, AT&T, and Nationwide, as well as organizations such as the Gates Foundation, University of Washington Medical Center, and San Francisco Giants. So please give a warm welcome to CrisMarie Campbell.
Well, I have to say, this is here we are, you all look beautiful, really, in your nice clothes. This food is great, this beautiful building. And I just have to say, it's a little bit different than when I was initiated into the BBC. When we were out on the dock, it was dark, cold, and we had upperclassmen, class women taunting us. They made us sing, "This is my quest to follow my oar, no matter how tired, no matter how sore." And then I felt this crack over my head and this gooey stuff running down my forehead. And I wiped away an egg yolk, was fed a dog biscuit made to chew and swallow, and then we jumped in the lake, had to tread water, and then raced up to the locker room, and that was my initiation to the BBC. So you should consider yourself lucky. This is a very civilized event, for sure. Now, I would be remiss if I didn't acknowledge that I was supposed to speak here 2 years ago for you juniors, I guess it would be. And then I think we all know what happened. COVID happened, lockdown, social justice issues, then COVID got better. Then COVID came back with a vengeance. The Ukrainian crisis. All of this has put everyone in this room in a state of uncertainty. And that uncertainty creates a high level of stress. And I do coach executives and business leaders, and the 2 things that I've been coaching on this last 2 years are how to deal with stress and how to create inclusion and belonging, because those are key issues for us right now. And they're interrelated. Stress, if I don't belong, if I feel excluded, it registers as pain, same as physical pain in my brain. And that creates stress. And when I'm stressed, I don't care about you. I'm focused on my own survival. So you see how they're interrelated, and we need to actually do something different on both issues. So I'm going to talk today about how to actually discharge your stress and create belonging and inclusion. And first, I want to start with you, and I want you to think about a time where you felt excluded. Maybe it was just a slight, but you felt like, I don't feel like I'm one of these people. Or maybe it was active discrimination, or people being mean and cruel. So remember that time, and remember how you felt. Now remember how you behaved in that situation. You can let that go now. Now I want you to think about a time that you were included. You knew these were your peeps. You felt people appreciated you, they talked to you, they cared about you. Remember how you felt in that situation. And now remember how you behaved. There is scientific proof that when we feel excluded, we withdraw, we become negative, we disengage. And when we feel included and like we belong, we perform better, we take accountability, we collaborate, we just feel so much better. So it's a key piece of our culture to figure out, and it has bottom line sports results and a bottom line impact to business. So they're key issues. And I'm just going to talk about my more personal story with inclusion and exclusion. I grew up as an Army brat, so we moved around the country. And every 2 to 3 years, I was in a different location. And when we were stationed on an Army base, oh, life was good. It was about 10 minutes, and some kid would come up to me and say, hey, my name's Tommy, you want to play kickball? And I was in like Flint. It was so great. Now, when I was 6, I had this perfect storm of exclusion. We were stationed in Hawaii, and we lived on an Army base, but my dad was sent to Vietnam. So we were kicked off the Army base. My mom was heading back to college after being a stay-at-home mom. I had older siblings, 7 and 10 years old, and they wanted nothing to do with a little 6-year-old, I can tell you that. And we moved to this all Japanese-speaking neighborhood. No kids wanted to play with a little white girl. And I went to a Hawaiian school where they were all Hawaiian. I was the one white girl, and I'd come home crying like, Mom, why are my feet so white? I don't like this. And so I have a sense of empathy those 2 years, 6 and 7, where I never got in. And it was horrible. So I also, though, we kept moving, so I felt included in other situations. But I developed empathy for people who are excluded just by the way they look, the color of their skin, and how painful that is, and they've had to live with that their whole life. So it's a very real issue. And when I came to the University of Washington, 20,000 people, whoa, that's a lot of people. And I came down to the Shell House. At that point, there were 110 other women. And these women were tall like you folks are tall. I'm 5'6", I'm not tall. And I was looking up at these athletes, these women, and at the time, I was definitely put in the remedial group with Jan, who said, you folks go run around the soccer field because you need to get in shape. And one time around the soccer field, we were exhausted. So you can tell how far we had to go. We had to learn how to row and get in shape. But by the springtime, freshman year, when I made the freshman 8 and we won Pac-10s. And then sophomore year, I was like, I really want to do this. And so I worked hard and I got into the varsity 8. 2 of us sophomores did, and we won the nationals that year in 1984. And then, yes, thank you, it was very good. Then the race became longer. The women were rowing only 1,000 meters. I know I'm dating myself. And the next year, junior year, I wanted to stroke, and so I asked somebody to teach me how to row in a pair so I could learn how to stroke. Stroked the varsity 8, became the team captain, and we won nationals in 85. And that was fabulous. Yes, thank you. But my senior year, we had 5 people from the V8. That's what you guys call it now, right? You shorten the V8. Trying to get the lingo. We had 5 people graduate the year before. So we had big gaps in our varsity boat. And because I was a stroke, I'd been the stroke, I was going to be the stroke again and team captain, and I was like, oh my gosh, we got to do something. And I took on such responsibility for making this boat successful. And that was an impossible task. And I had this big critic in my head, pushing me, telling me how to be perfect, how to please the coach. And I was working so hard, so diligently. I so much wanted us to win. And I was trying super hard. And you can even see what started to happen is I started to grip, I'm a port, so my inside arm started to grip up around my ears because it was trying to do the work of the whole rest of my body. It was pulling too fast, I had big biceps, but was not very effective in the boat. And I was just in such pain and angst. And there's a quote, I have a movie that I love, The Legend of Bagger Vance. It's a golf movie, Robert Redford made it. And in there, Matt Damon is a golfer, Will Smith is his mystical character, and Matt Damon has lost his swing, his rowing swing, his golfing swing, sorry about that. And Will Smith says, a man's grip on his club is like his grip on his life. And my grip on my oar was like a death grip my senior year. I was so stressed, not helpful. Now fast forward to the Olympic year. So I had won the silver medal in '87. That had been great. That's another story, it's a good one. And I was coming into the Olympic year, and all signs were pointing that I had a possibility to be the stroke of the Olympic 8 for the Seoul Olympics. And I was working really hard. It was March, so 6 months before the games. And another good friend of mine, I'll just call her Tammy, was also in the running for stroke. And we had a particularly grueling practice one evening and on our two-a-days, and after the practice, the coach said, here's the names of the people that can come back tomorrow. Read off the names, mine was on it, so I was psyched, and Tammy's wasn't. And I'm ashamed to say, I was like, yes, I got my shoe in to be stroke, or at least a step forward. And then I looked at Tammy, and I saw how devastated she was. And I was immediately racked with shame and guilt. Tammy and I had been friends and chatted, and I tried to catch up with her. She ran out of we were doing weights at the time. She wanted nothing to do with me. I felt like I had personally cut her from the team by how I had been happy. And I didn't know how to deal with these emotions, the guilt, the shame of feeling happy that she had been cut that millisecond. And so I did what I knew how to do, not feel my emotions. I started working harder, trying to be perfect. Again, that critic in my head beating me up. And we had a person that was a massage therapist that was also a power lifter, and I thought, okay, I'm gonna work even harder. Can you teach me how to power lift? This is March. I did not ask the coach. This is not a good idea. Do not do this. I'm just saying. Ask Yaz or Michael what you should be doing. So I started powerlifting. 3 weeks later, I hurt my back. I was off the water. Okay, 1 week. That was hard. 1 week became 1 month. 1 month became 2 months. I had quit my job to train full-time for the Olympics. I was basically living alone, and I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was so humiliated and I was, again, full of shame and self-hate. Like my Olympic dreams were like slipping away, and I couldn't do anything about it. I was so desperate. Who was I with that if I wasn't a rower? And I was suicidal. I didn't know, I wasn't talking to anybody about how I felt, and it was a very dark time. I was going to PT, so I went to PT that day, and I walked in and saw my physical therapist, I'll call her Mary. And Mary took one look at me, and she's like, I went by Chris at that point. She said, Chris, what's going on inside that head of yours? We're doing a lot to fix your body, but unless you fix what's going on in your head, nothing's gonna help. I burst into tears. I had held it so in months, and I sobbed, and probably for a couple of minutes. She handed me a Kleenex, and I was just blubbering, and after I kind of caught my breath, she said, I don't know if this is going to help, but I have this book, The Mental Athlete, and it had just been published, and she said, take it, because unless you fix what's going on in here, you're never going to get back on the water. And because I kind of felt my feelings, when she handed me the book, I knew it was something that could help. I read it all that night. I woke up the next morning and I thought, I got to do something different. These dark thoughts are pulling me down, and this is not helping. And so, because I had lots of time on my hands, everybody was racing and getting faster, I was at home doing PT and swimming, I started to remember positive memories. Memories with the team, memories with my family. And when I felt that little lift of something happier, then I'd lay down and I'd visualize my stroke. Because this book is about when you're injured and you can't do something, you can train neurologically. And it's still, your subconscious doesn't know if you're actually doing it or you're doing it in your imagination. It still registers in your nervous system. So I listened to this recording of going up to the catch, exploding the legs, swinging open, the release, and gliding back up over and over again. and feeling the stroke. And 3 weeks later, I did not expect this. I got an invitation to the Olympic training camp. So I showed up, and I have to tell you, I think I was the most seat-raced person because I was starting at the bottom of the barrel at that point. But in August, I got a seat in the Olympic 8, made it to Seoul, Korea, and I have to say, walking into those opening ceremonies as Team USA, I knew I belonged. I felt the roar of the crowd hit my chest and my teammates beside me. It was magical, but not easy. So I'm telling you this story because the 6 years I spent rowing, I had the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful. But it set the foundation for the rest of my life and the work that I do today. And in hindsight, I realize, and this might be sacrosanct to say, but it was never about the wins or the losses. It was how I experienced them. And I want to give you 3 keys that I still use today in that, so you can actually create more resiliency in your rowing experience, because resiliency is what's going to keep you going through all those kilometers, all those races, all these years. And the first is create connection. Now there's social connection, which starts the creation of inclusion. So when I was, somebody once told me, be the host. No matter where you are, act like the host of the party. So walk up to somebody and say, hey, I'm CrisMarie, what's your name? Even when I was growing up as an Army brat, I had to answer the phone or the door, Colonel Campbell's quarters, Chrissy speaking, how can I help you? But it's that same intention of, here's me, and I'm interested in you, just because you're there. So create those social connections, reach out to people. Now that's social connections, but there's another quality, personal connections. And I want you to think about a time that you've struggled. You were really having a hard time, but somebody was there for you. Somebody really had your back. Remember that time. And I'm gonna guess what they did is they just were there with you. They didn't solve your problem. They just listened to you. Maybe they put their arm around you while you cried or got angry or let you be angry, they let you vent. Whatever that was, they created space for you. That connection are powerful bonds. But just like me, when I was training for the Olympics, when I was feeling upset, I didn't want anybody to know. I was so embarrassed. No, nobody can know. And what that did, that stopped me processing my feelings. And just so you know, emotions are simply energy in the body. They have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And when we stop and shove it down and try to be tough, they squirt out somewhere, either an injury or you snap at somebody. And so it's like, an analogy is like you're driving through a tunnel. And if you go through the other side, you're gonna get to the light, the clarity. But if you don't feel your emotions, it's like you've stopped in the middle of the tunnel. You know, in the middle of the tunnel, it's just dark, and you're alone. So it's important to allow that feeling to flow through, even though you may feel incredibly vulnerable doing that. And it's, we have this idea, okay, I'll just feel my emotions all alone. But we are social beings. We like the contact. It helps us process through and get the clarity. So I cannot stress enough, based on my own suicidal experience, if you are having, you don't have to get to that level, but if you are struggling, reach out. Because other people may not know you're having a hard time because you're really good at pretending you're not. All rowers are very stoic, we are. So reach out and create that connection. And if you have a hint that somebody is struggling, also reach out. You do not need to fix this person. You just need to be present. If they are given the space to feel their feelings, the clarity will come for them. So don't feel responsible, but create that connection. And I have to tell you, the connections that you're making today will be lifelong. I just had dinner last night with a coxswain that I rode with here at Washington. These are lifelong connections, and those personal connections really bind us when somebody really has your back. So that's one, create connection. The second key is interrupt stress with joy breaks. I know that sounds mamby-pamby, joy breaks, what the heck? But our brains have a natural negativity bias. We are constantly scanning for danger, what's not working, what's the problem, so we often don't recognize what's working. And as a rower, 2-a-days, going to school, life, tell me, but I'm thinking you've gotten pretty darn efficient. That efficiency, though, can kind of mask an addiction to adrenaline. And we feel really on top of the world the more we can handle all the things we're doing. But adrenaline is toxic to the brain if you stay stuck in that. And if you're squeezing things in, rushing, multitasking, you're actually not giving your brain the chance, and your nervous system and body, the chance to rest and digest. You need to come off that stress curve, come down, to allow your body to start to regenerate and repair. And by the way, all that work you're doing, you want to get the maximum benefit. So you do want to be aware of what's going on, how stressed am I, can I come down that curve? And this doesn't take a lot of time to do. You have to start noticing, am I in that place where, oh, I can get this done, I can squeeze one more thing in, and interrupt that. So this could look as simple as putting on a song and dancing. It totally changes your energy, and it's really fun. Doing it with friends is even more fun. And the other piece is we can't feel fear and gratitude at the same time. And I know it sounds so wimpy, but if you focus on what you're grateful for and say it out loud, say 5 things that you're grateful for when you wake up, before you go to sleep, when you're in the middle of a stress place, it will change your brain chemistry, which will start your body on that rest and digest. And I really want you to, okay, get some claps there, awesome. It will really help you be more effective if you reduce that adrenaline high. Now, let's say you're out on the water doing those 200,000 Ks or whatever you guys, folks are doing these days. And you can also be aware of how are you in the boat, because our brain can get stimulated. We're doing all this hard work and we think, oh my God, we get in that fight or flight. I've got to be faster, I've got to be perfect, what's going on? And so you want to actually, in between pieces, keep your head in the boat during pieces. In between pieces, look around. Look at the sun, the color of the sunset or the sunrise. Hear the water lapping against the boat. Smell the rain, the scent of the rain. Or even, you could do this now, feel your feet and your seat. Anytime we bring our energy back into the body, out of this head that's such a taskmaster, we become more present. When we're more present, we start to create dopamine, oxytocin. These are good brain chemicals. You want more of those brain chemicals. So you can do it in the boat. Even if you're like really stressed at the start, even saying, I am calm, I am capable. What would happen if I relaxed 10% right now? Just 10%. Just taking that edge off so that you're not like me with that right shoulder, gripping the oar. So these are some things, and the more you do it, the better, the more you'll rewire your brain for good, because we have to consciously do that. And I'm not gonna lie, it's hard to make that choice when you're in the middle of that addiction to adrenaline, because it's like, no, I gotta keep working, I gotta go harder. So making that choice will help you recover and repair your bodies, which, by the way, you definitely need to do. Now, the third key is feel the flow. So remember when I told you about my right shoulder up by my ear, the death grip that I had. I was trying to be perfect, trying to please the coach, big critic in my head, never enough, working harder and harder. And really that was not very effective. Now fast forward to when I was training for the Olympics. I told you I was the most seat race person because I got back on the water, had rowed for 3 months. Sure I was visualizing. I got my stroke back quickly, but I had to seat race pretty much every day it felt like. And so I had to make friends with seat racing. And there's another quote from that movie, Bagger Vance. It says, he's talking about, looking at a T and he goes, you can't see that T, that flag, as a dragon you have to slay. You have to look at it with soft eyes. You gotta feel it with your hands. Your hands are smarter than your head will ever be. And the reason I had that death grip is because my head was beating me up. And so when I started the seat race process and I thought, this is gonna be a daily experience, I started to tell myself, you know what, this might sound like a stretch. I like seat racing. Seat racing is fun. And this is what rowing's about. But it was changing my association from, oh my God, will I win this one? If I win this one, what will happen? That brittle, tough, I just gotta get this one and then I'll be okay. I had to start not worrying about the outcome, but enjoying the process. So I used my visualization to really feel myself in the boat and letting go of the results. I had to let go of them because otherwise I was like pressure in my brain, I would explode. And while we were seat racing, I was seat racing pretty much every day, and it was getting towards the August, and I went out for one seat race, and we took the 2 4s, went out to Portage Bay where we did seat racing, and we did the one race, and my 4 won. I was in 2 seat. My 4 won maybe like a smidge, maybe a seat, not a lot, but we beat the other boat. Okay, so we pulled the boats together, and I switched with the other 2 seat. And we're warming up and, coming to the start. And we're at the start and all of a sudden my brain's like, oh my God, this is it. You've got to do that pressure thing. And I said, wait a minute. I'm calm. I'm capable. What if I relax just 10%? We took off, started going, and all of a sudden it just felt easy. I wasn't working any less, but I was in sync and in the flow, and it was just it felt good in a really powerful way. And the boat was surging ahead, and we finished with open water. And I was like, wow, this stuff really works. Because I believe that race, I was in the flow. Some athletes call it the zone, but it's that state of focused, but relaxed, where I'm sunk in and I can feel my body, and it's just magical. And it wasn't too much later that I made the 8, and I was so convinced of this flow state. So I'm just encouraging you, have a long racing season ahead of you. You've got spring break next week. Rather than worrying about the results, of course you want to win. Of course. Focus on what you feel in your body. I'm calm, I'm capable. Can I relax 10% more? And just notice, if you can, interrupt those feel the flow. So, in summary, I really wish you, and I know you are, but create the connections. Create the connections, especially when you're struggling. Reach out. Interrupt stress with joy breaks. Dance breaks, all those other little things. Gratitude, what's working. Notice, become present in the boat. And finally, feel the flow and let go of the results. Because then you're going to be present to what's happening and you'll be able to respond. So, freshmen and sophomores, in terms of belonging, this is your ceremony, and I want to let you know tonight you belong to the Varsity Boat Club. You belong to Washington Rowing. You belong to this rowing family forever. It just doesn't go away. So get ready for the start. Ready all? Row.